Let's get the podcast started with some Joel Gibson Jr. music. It's been a while. It's called Not Again. Check out his website, joelgibsonjrmusic.com, for his music, events, and merchandise.
I lost count of all the times you said you'd leave. You walk out and come crawling back on your knees, and I let you back in. But not again, no, not again. I changed the locks like I changed my mind. You're out the door and you're out of my life. So hit the road and don't turn around. Yeah, your time is up for bringing me down. I'm jumping off of this one-way, a runaway train. I fell out of love with you long ago. I'm sick and tired of your mind games. All you bring is pain. All you bring is pain. I changed the locks like I changed my mind. You're out the door and you're out of my life. So hit the road and don't turn around. Your time is up for bringing me down. I'd like to tell you go to hell, but that's where I've been living. You're a cold ass bitch and you put me over the limit. I'm getting back on track, ain't looking back. Hell no, we can't be friends. No, not again.
That was Joel Gibson Jr. Check out his website, joelgibsonjrmusic.com.
This is Chit Chat, the encouraging one another podcast, where it's all about encouragement.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chit Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. I'm your host, Jody Sheffield. Today on the podcast, I'm reaching out to a local musician and teacher who grew up in Portland, Oregon. He began playing drums at 9 years old. 9 years old. He studied drumming under Motown and jazz legend Mel Brown. And in 2005, he earned his master's degree in early childhood education and moved out to the Kitsap Peninsula, where he's now a music teacher at Woelfel Elementary School in Kingston, Washington. He's an encourager to kids and helps them learn more about music each and every day. He also hosts open mic night in the area and is always encouraging young musicians. His musical tastes are all over, and you never know what he might play from his vast selections of covers or original songs. I'm excited to speak with him and see who encouraged him, who inspired him throughout his career, and pick his brain with a few icebreaker questions. This is Chit Chat with my guest, Mr. Michael McCurdy.
Hey, Jody.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hear me all right?
I can hear you great.
Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking today with Mr. Michael McCurdy. Hope I'm saying that right.
You are.
How are you? I'm excited to have you on and just kind of share about everything you're doing and encouraging kids. And you're a busy man, aren't you?
You bet. I'm pretty busy. I'm kind of spread out all over the place, but thank you for having me on this. It's really exciting.
You're welcome. This is a Chit and Chat encouraging one other podcast. I reach out to musicians, comedians, whoever really, and just get their story. And before I dive into some fun conversations, I like to pick my brain, your brain with questions.
Yeah.
I need more coffee today, apparently. And I have 5 questions. And this portion of the podcast is brought to you by Tequiza. They're a taco shop in Silverdale. They have 5 kinds of tacos. Are you a tacoaholic?
I love tacos. I'm going to have to try it out. I'm pretty close to Silverdale, too.
Yeah, they have one at Kitsap Mall, and they have a food truck. They does breakfast burritos as well, and they're really good friends of mine, and they have great tacos.
I will check them out, maybe
right.
on Tuesday.
Question number 1. If you woke up tomorrow and you could be an expert in anything, what would it be and why?
Wow. Hopefully I wake up tomorrow. That's always a good start.
Yes, sir.
And if I could have any kind of knowledge or be anything.
Yep. An expert in whatever you want to be an expert
in. An expert. I don't know. Curing cancer would be a good thing, right?
Ooh,
I guess if I was an expert in how could I help the most people with my knowledge, I would probably think about that. And
okay. That's a good answer. We'll go with that. Number 2, do you have a hidden talent? Perhaps something only a few people know about? And if so, what is it?
A hidden talent. Oh my gosh. I have a few, probably not a couple I should talk about on the radio, but let's see. Hidden talent. Gosh, most of my talents I try and put out there so people, they're front and center. Hidden talents. I'm learning the ukulele, and I haven't really put that out there too much yet, but I'd like to play more ukulele. It's not that bad. It's a great stringed instrument to start on, actually. Okay. It's kind of a rage right now. So I'm working on my ukulele talents.
How many instruments can you play?
I'm really a drummer. I started out as a drummer, so and I play hand drums as well as drum kit. But when I got a music teaching job in like 2007, I started playing guitar more and singing and just kind of getting into that.
Our church used to have regular drums, and we had electric drums as well to kind of help with the sound. We're in a school for a while. What's the big difference between electric and regular drums? Is there a huge difference, or?
As a drummer, the feel of them is very different.
Okay.
And I'm old enough to remember when like electronic drums came out, and I jumped on that train. I had a Simmons SDS9 kit. I still have it. I was a big Bill Bruford fan who played with Yes, and he had this yellow, they looked like stop signs. I don't know if you remember them, but there was a very distinctive Simmons tom-tom drum sound in the 80s, and that's what everybody was kind of going for. And
gotcha.
They were very cool. I liked them. I think my mom liked them because I could plug headphones in and they weren't as loud. But something about the feel of real drums is kind of different, and the response from them. Okay. I know probably for recording engineers, they probably enjoy electronic drums, and they've really come a long way. They got the ones with the like kind of nylon heads that really, have the same kind of response and stuff. Okay. So they're pretty close.
It's not much better, huh? Question number 3: what is your favorite meal?
My favorite meal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought you said Neil at first. I'm like, oh man, that's tough. Diamond or Young? I have to think about it. No, my favorite meal? Man, tacos are awfully good, and you got me thinking about those. But my mother used to make this lasagna that was great. I like good Italian food. Really good lasagna sounds pretty good too.
That's you get me hungry already.
Yeah, steak and potatoes are great too. Can't beat that.
If you could go see any 3 musicians, either together or who are living now or passed away, or as a group of broken up, who would you see and why? Three musicians or groups?
You mean who I haven't seen? Or I mean, I've seen a lot of really pretty amazing shows, but as far as ones that I've never seen before,
Sure.
uh, I would love to have seen Jimi Hendrix if we're going living or dead. I mean, to me, that would be a spectacle and something to see. And, you know, if you could make Eric Clapton's jaw drop to the ground, then you've got to be on to something, right? And he would have been amazing to see. I did get to see Stevie Ray Vaughan open for Men at Work, of all things, when he was just coming out, and that kind of blew my mind. But also made me wish I could have saw Jimi Hendrix back in the day. Huge Beatles fan. I would have loved to have seen the Beatles. My son and I just went and saw Ringo last week, but it would have been nice to see him when they were all together and touring. So that would probably be one. And I get 3.
Yes, sir. One more.
I could go on all day with this stuff. Gosh. I've seen Prince a few times, and he was just amazing. And I would, I would see him again at the drop of a hat. So maybe I'll go with Prince.
And question number 5, you got to narrow this down. The best 3 concerts you've ever been to.
Oh, well, there you go.
The hoopla, the lights,
right.
crowd.
Yep. That's a tough one because I've seen a lot of great ones, but I can give you the 3 and in any particular order, or okay. One that was very special to me is I saw Frank Sinatra at the Puyallup Fair.
Oh, wow. My favorite song is Fly Me to the Moon.
There you go, man. And it was very special because my father's favorite thing in the world was Frank Sinatra, and he'd never seen him, and our whole family got to go, and it was at the Puyallup Fair. I don't remember exactly what year it is, but Frank was almost 80, because I remember it was a couple years before his big 80th birthday bash thing, so he hadn't passed on yet. And Shirley MacLaine opened the show, and it was at the Puyallup Fair, and he was a little shaky at first. He sat on a stool, had his bourbon and his cigarette, and after 2 songs, it was Frank Sinatra, man. It was amazing.
That's cool.
And I'll never forget that one. Another great one was Tom Waits, and that was at the Holt Center in Eugene on the Mule Variations tour, and that was just an incredible show. He doesn't tour a whole lot, and he's one of my favorites. But Prince is my favorite musician of all time. I was lucky enough to see him twice. The one time I saw him was at the Schnitzer in Portland. It was the One Night Alone tour, and he'd recorded, I think he came out with a CD of some of that show, and that was just a magical evening of being blown away by somebody who just was oozed music out of every pore.
That's awesome. I've been maybe a handful of concerts. My first one I saw was Alan Jackson and Lori Morgan down in Louisiana, group in Arkansas. And I've seen Travis Tritt. For King and Country, my daughter loves that group. We saw them a few years ago, and that they put on a show. Those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, Willie would be one I'd love to see, and I've never seen Willie, but I did get to see Johnny Cash and family in Portland outside at the zoo, and that was a really cool show.
One of my dad's favorite groups is the Highwaymen. Seen those guys. Oh man. For those out there who are listening and might not know who you are, can you give us a brief bio on who Michael McCurdy is?
Oh my gosh, brief. Okay. Well, I grew up in Oregon, in actually a little town outside of, where I went to grade school was in a place called Beaver Creek, which is on the other side of Oregon City, southeast, so a little bit out in the farms, not right in downtown Portland, but around the Portland area. And started getting into drumming when I was about 9 years old. I just started gravitating anytime I saw somebody playing the drums, or it was just something I wanted to do. And then my sister went out with a guy who was a high school drummer, and I remember going to a concert of theirs, and there was another guy in our neighborhood that played conga drums and hand drums, and they had their jazz concert, but then they did this huge drum solo where they were like trading off, and I think it was one of the first times I remember seeing live music that they just grabbed the audience, and and I remember just like it was yesterday, and that changed my life. I went up to my sister's friend after, and I said, "Can you teach me how to do that?" And I started taking the bus over to the high school from the grade school, and taking drum lessons once a week, and just kept doing that. Had different drum teachers in Portland, started playing in bands around high school. Played in bands after high school for a couple of years, went back to school, got my English degree. It was pretty tough out there playing music and trying to make a career of it. And I always enjoyed it and didn't want to put all my eggs in that basket, because I knew a lot of musician friends that were starting to get kind of bitter about not making it. And they were like in their mid 20s, I'm like, geez, it's tough out there. So started getting into other stuff. Always been into English and reading. So I got my English degree, wound up being a technical writer for a few years for a telecom company in Vancouver, Washington. Kind of did the techie thing for a while. Got married, had a kid. And then I decided in 2005 was a big kind of life changer year for me. 2003 really was when my son was born, and then my mother passed away in 2005 from cancer, and I decided to go back to school. I was getting my master's degree at this time, so I had a 1-year-old, my mother passing away from cancer, and I was in this pretty intense master's program to be a teacher. And I never would have saw myself as a teacher. Something my oldest sister Colleen, suggested, "Hey, I think you'd be a good teacher." And thought about it, was definitely thinking about it because I had a kid on the way. So went to a master's program at Concordia to become an elementary school teacher. And then shortly after my mom passed, I moved up here to the Puget Sound area in Poulsbo, Kingston area, and substituted for a while, got to know some teachers in schools, and then the music teacher who'd been at the school in Kingston, Wolfley Elementary, for about 28 years, retired, and I applied for the job, and that was in 2007 when I got that job. So I've been the elementary school music teacher, and I've continued to play the drums, and kind of expanded it to playing acoustic guitar and singing, and try and keep myself busy doing that. I host an open mic that I've been doing for about 7 years.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's at the Downpour in Kingston every Thursday night from 6 to 9. I've been doing that for 6 or 7 years. We kind of did some virtual stuff over COVID, but it's just turned into just this amazing, wonderful collection of musicians and community getting together over music. And that was really my intent, and it's really come to fruition nicely.
I'm gonna go back a little bit too. I saw you were reading your bio. You were kind of learned a little bit of Motown jazz under legend Mel Brown. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, oh man, he was one of the biggest influences on my life. I started taking lessons from him in middle school. He toured with Diana Ross and was kind of a Motown guy that has been on a bunch of Motown hits, and just a legend in Portland. If you're from Portland, you probably know who Mel Brown is. And I used to go see him with my dad before I was old enough, and I just stand outside and watch him through the window, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And it was almost more than his amazing ability on the drums, was how happy he seemed playing the drums, and I wanted some of that. And my parents divorced when I was about 11. I get along with them great, but that was a tough time for me, and I felt like drumming was something I sort of had a control over, and I could go to lessons and sort of had something I could hang on to. And Mel was just a rock for me, and I still love to see him when I'm in Portland. It was only a few years that I took lessons from him, but he was just such a person that I always was like, I want to be like this guy, you know. Classy, kind, you know, gives to others, talented, you know, had a high standard for himself and people around him, and just one of the most wonderful people I can think of.
I have to reach out to him.
A hero.
Show sometime and share and ask about his experience teaching you.
Yeah. You should get Mel on your show for sure. I can put you in contact with him maybe.
So, what really drew you into music? You know, this was you know, you're 9 years old. You're learning to play the drums at 9.
Right.
Kids are outside playing outside.
Yeah, we were, and there was a guy down the street, and he, you know, it was his older brother, and his older brother's buddy's name was Terry, and this guy Jim would play guitar, and his buddy Terry would just bang on the snare drum, and I just thought, man, that's cool. And hey, Terry, teach me how to do this drum thing. And so I started getting into it. My mother was very smart because she didn't just go out and buy me a drum set. A lot of, you know, you'll find a lot of drum sets for sale from kids that just all of a sudden they have a drum set and there's all these drums and cymbals in front of them and they don't know what to do with it and they get overwhelmed and they bang on as many as they can as fast as they can for a couple of weeks and then they get bored with it, you know, because they're like, I don't know how this works, you know. But my mother, she's like, well, we'll rent a snare drum and you'll work on these things called rudiments, you know, which are wrist exercises and learn how to hold the sticks and, you know, very kind of basic rudimentary stuff. And so we rented a snare drum. She said, you know, if you don't practice, it goes back to the shop. And I mean, I made sure she knew I was practicing. And so she could hear me. And I, you know, worked on rudiments for about a year before I even really got behind a drum set. And it was maybe 11 or 12 by the time I got a drum set. And by the time I did that, I'd already, you know, been working on these rudiments on just a snare and was able to kind of transfer that to the kit. So I wasn't quite so overwhelmed with it. And
so what is the rudiment?
Primed and ready. Rudiments are just basic wrist coordination exercises, you know, combinations of lefts and rights, and that you know, most drummers will warm up doing rudiments and things like that to get their wrists going and their, you know, a lot of muscle memory happening, build up speed and endurance, and you know, then you can transfer all of that stuff onto the kit. But that's kind of the basic building blocks of drumming. If you think of rudiments like Legos, you know, the more different kind of pieces you have, the more different stuff you can build.
When was the first time you played in front of someone or a concert or something?
Well, I mean, the first time I performed, I'm almost a little embarrassed to say this, I wasn't playing music, I was dancing, and it was a 5th grade talent show.
Okay.
And I was disco dancing because this is how old I am. It was late 70s when I was in 5th grade. And so disco was all the rage. And I think it was Debbie Harry's Heart of Glass. So that must have come out sometime around then, late 70s. And I just remember enjoying the crowd, checking me out and wanting to wow them and getting into the music and, you know, getting a standing ovation and just thinking, all right, I like being in. I don't remember being embarrassed or ever having any kind of stage fright or anything. I just remember kind of some nervous excitement, but just like, oh man, this is fun. This is what living's all about, you know?
Right. So yeah, as mentioned earlier, you came out to Kingston and became a teacher in 2007. So, what, 16 years now as a teacher?
Yeah, pretty much. I took a year off a couple of years ago, but yep.
And I was reading an article that your first few days as a teacher, you drove to work feeling a little nauseous, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't remember. I must have sent you something, but yeah, I mean, literally teaching.
I did some research. I've had some articles about it.
Good. Teaching is an intense job. And most first time, you know, if you meet somebody who's a new teacher, buy them coffee or take them to lunch or something, man, because it's tough. And when you start out, I mean, I would say probably for the first 5 years, I was still like, had this huge doubt in my mind. Like, I don't know if I can do this, man. Like, this is intense. And, one of the things that the former teacher there had gifted me before he retired and moved on, his name was Dennis Nicholson. He was just a saint. He was kind of my Yoda, but he gave me these little pearls of wisdom. One of the things he said was, the kids are just going to keep coming in waves, man, and you just got to learn how to surf the waves, sort of. And it's like,
Nice.
wow. And that pretty much is my job in a nutshell. And so I got a little seasick the first couple of years, yeah, and I'd pull over and throw up before I'd go to work sometimes, because I just had all these nervous butterflies. And it is kind of like there's definitely a parallel between being on stage and being a teacher in front of a classroom. You kind of have to be on, especially nowadays, because kids have a little bit less of an attention span, and so you got to be doing your shtick.
Some of my favorite teachers in high school, and I graduated in '89. I just love my music teachers. I had several. And what's it like teaching kids? What grades do you teach right now?
I teach kindergarten through 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's it like teaching kids of that grade the benefits of music and how the learning about music?
I love it. It's an awesome job, and because I get the real young ones, I feel like my responsibility is to instill a love of music in them. And that will set them on the path, if they love music. So if they leave 5th grade and they love music and they want to do more of it or listen to more of it or be more interested in it, then I feel like I've done okay. We get into learning the notes and all the, different, aspects of theory and stuff, but I really try to focus on doing music and making it fun and making kids fall in love with music and trying to find the hook. Like if one kid wants to play guitar and he learns the riff from Seven Nation Army of White Stripes, he's off and running,
Wow.
If that's the hook for him. Or, somebody else might want to sing or play ukulele, whatever strikes their fancy. Like it was me with drums, and I see that in kids, something will set them off and get them going.
Twinkle on their eye, huh?
Yeah.
I saw you guys did a road trip to Seattle to the Benaroya Hall. What was that like?
Yeah, I typically would take 5th graders every year to Benaroya Hall and go see the Seattle Symphony. And then a couple years into that, they started doing this thing where we'd kind of get some curriculum and learn some of the songs they were going to play, and kids would kind of play some recorders or do singing with them. And so it was a little more interactive with the symphony, and it was always fun. And, it's kind of a little bit SES school where I'm at. And there's some kids, not only have they never been to a big symphony, but they'd never even been on the other side of the water in Seattle. So you take them over there and they're just like, holy smokes, this is crazy, always just a fun experience. And we had a really good year, 2017, where we got to we entered a contest that they started doing where schools could submit compositions to enter this contest, and the winner, the Seattle Symphony, would learn their piece of music. Well, we won in 2017, so my 5th graders had put this piece together. We picked all the parts that we liked of different people's, and we talked about why, and then kind of stitched those together and used a computer program where you kind of drag and drop notes to compose. And we submitted it, and just was like, I was very proud of the kids just for doing that. And it was just a great learning experience. But then we found out we won, and that was really awesome. So big newspaper came out, and we got to go to the symphony and be treated like royalty, and they played our symphony, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That's something you'd never forget for sure. Was that?
Yeah, and I know those kids that were in that helped write it. I mean, that's something they've always got in their back pocket. Like, oh, they could put that in their resume wherever they go. Like in 5th grade, I wrote a symphony, and the Seattle Symphony performed it. Like that's a pretty good start.
Something else happened to you too in 2017. I was reading you became the North Kitsap School District Teacher of the Year.
Yeah, that was a good year for me. That was 10 years into teaching, I think. And that was like, okay, I've reached the peak. It was good. The
And
best part of that was I got to ride in a parade in my sister's Porsche and wave at everybody,
nice. You
and
get
that was pretty fun.
the fancy wave to the crowd, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and the shouts of "Hey, Mr. McCurdy." But since I've played with my friend's drumline a few times, and I have to say it's a little more fun in a parade if you have a drum. You can march down the street with it.
Oh yeah. And you also won the Outstanding Educator Award that's presented in the Kitsap County chapter of the Delta Kappa Gamma.
Yeah,
You said, quote, it was like sweeping the Grammys.
it sort of was. It was a bit of a trifecta hat trick kind of thing going on, and it was. I don't know what the stars were doing, but they must have aligned right for me that year for sure. And it felt a little weird having that much attention put on me. It always, I'm not always super comfortable with that, but I was very grateful and appreciative. And at
You
that point, I thought, well, okay, I guess I can do this job. Okay.
you must have a huge heart for kids and teaching music. And now you're hosting Mike Nights. How did that start out?
Um, well, I mean, I've always been a big believer in bringing community together through music. And that's kind of my approach in teaching. We're a big community, our school's a big community, and we can uh, come closer together through music. We can, our community of parents and kids and teachers can come together through music and having assemblies and things like that. And so it wasn't a big stretch with open mic. I had some ulterior motives, like I was just kind of learning how to play guitar. I've always been a big fan of Neil Young and Bob Dylan and guys like that. And I thought, being a drummer, you're always pretty much playing somebody else's music. And I thought, man, if I learn how to play 3 chords on the guitar, I can just play whatever Neil Young song I want or whatever. So I started doing that. And a friend Dan Williams opened this wonderful brewery. And I think it was about a year after he'd opened it up that we started doing open mic there. I don't even remember exactly how it happened. We just said, hey, let's start doing some open mic here. And for me, it was like, I know I'm going to pick up a guitar and play a song and have fun, and there's no pressure, and do it once a week at least. So you get better pretty quick when you do that. And I'd been to quite a few open mics where it's, a handful of musicians and they're all just kind of with their arms folded and checking each other out. It's kind of a cutting contest, and people are like, oh yeah, I can do that, and they're kind of trying to one up each other. And I knew what I didn't want it to be like, the vibe sort of. It was like, leave the ego at the door, let's have fun and play music together and support each other, and come together as a community through music. Right. And so that's really been the vibe I've tried to put out there, and it's just the ripple effect has been amazing. There's typically 20 to 24 people every week that play, and everybody is just in love with everybody else, and it's just a big love fest. It's good, and some amazing talent. And I've seen kids, they started coming there at like 12 and 13, and now they're 20 or something, and they're amazingly good and get gigs in the community. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to build up confidence for musicians, as well as connect with other artists in the area. And you never know what might come out of that. It's like, so you're planting seeds. You may get some really gifted musicians.
Right. That's one of my favorite things, is when somebody's like really nervous and you see them, a few weeks, but they're kind of afraid to go up there, and then they finally get the courage to come up, and like, however they do, everybody's just like, yeah, you did it, and then it's not quite so scary. And then, you see them 2 years later and they're getting their own shows, or, and it feels pretty good.
What words of encouragement would you have for someone who's a little bit timid about getting up and singing in front of others? Any inspirational words?
Well, I heard one the other day I really liked, and it was, be brave enough to suck at something new.
I like that.
And I like that too, and I try and think about that in my life too. Like, if you're trying something new, you're going to suck at it a little bit. And I mean, I think part of it is just now with, we get everything in 15-second sound bites, and part of, I think, the Western idea of music now with kind of reality TV and stuff and TikTok has turned into, you wait in line 5 hours and then Simon Cowell tells you that you suck and that's what music is. And it's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, I have admiration for people who are, amazingly talented, but if I also heard one that I liked where if you enjoy the music that you're playing and you enjoy the process of playing it, you're a successful musician. Congratulations, And if that's the standard you set for yourself, then music can be a really wonderful part of your life.
True. Yeah.
I've seen it be really stressful for some people because they're trying to hustle and make it, and the idea of fame has sort of overshadowed the idea of music and enjoyment of it.
And he does some other projects as well with I'm gonna get this right, right? Skunk Bay Troubadours as well as Three Horse Carousel.
Yeah, Three Horse Carousel was something that just started with myself and my good friend Toby Kemper and John Lyonsmith, who is my sister's boyfriend. And we would just hang out and play music together. Toby was also a music teacher for a while and a theater major, and John's just a great musician. And we all have a real love for British rock and roll, British music, British harmonies, Beatles. And so we just started picking these British songs and started singing together. And we're like, wow, our voices sound kind of good together. So we kind of have this little acoustic trio that we do called Three Horse Carousel, or THC for short, if you would.
Okay.
And then Skunk Bay Troubadours is a good friend of mine, Danielle Lee, and my friend Leyland Foster, who plays the bass. And Danielle Lee is just an amazing keyboard player, singer, songwriter, guitar player. She went to, I'm trying to remember the college she went to for music. And so she's very knowledgeable. And we just, we all worked at the Kingston Ale House together. And Danny moved to Seattle for a while and was doing corporate stuff, but she moved back to Port Ludlow, kind of in the area, and we just started getting together, playing a little music that we like together and getting a few gigs here and there. And then recently I've been playing with a friend of mine, James Lee Murray, who's just fantastic keyboard player, and he had just recorded an album and was going to go do some touring, I think, with Alan Stone, and had all this stuff lined up, and then COVID happened, so it was just bad timing. But just a great album. If you can check his out, James Lee Murray was great too. And yeah, we're looking for a bass player if you know anybody.
We'll put the word out.
Okay, good.
You write your own music. Where's your inspiration come from when you're writing music? Is it life experiences, or just words that come to your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been pretty timid, and I've written, maybe I could count the songs I've written on one hand because I'm a little shy about that. But I'm trying to do it more and push myself to do it more. A lot of my songs end up sounding kind of clevery, goofy, Weird Alish, maybe. I don't know. I like a sense of humor to come through. But I also appreciate songwriters where it's like they're not like I think one of the hard things about being a songwriter is not being direct. Like you can say cool stuff without directly saying stuff, and that's what cool songwriting kind of is. So I'm trying to do that, but sometimes in my thinking, in my writing, I'm very direct and to the point, and that's not always a good thing, I guess, in songwriting.
I like your song, Get the Guitar Player a Date.
Yes, and that song was written as a frustrated drummer, and I think that song had been percolating for a long time, and it was called "Someone Give the Drummer a Guitar."
There you go.
And that was when it was kind of for all the fed up drummers who put up with all the other musicians, and it was a little dark and snarky as far as pointing out the foibles of all the other musicians in the band. And
I think it's spot on. It's pretty. I liked it. It's pretty funny.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
While I was researching you, I came across that you were part of the Wild Wise School of the Outdoor Adventure. What is that?
Well, I took a year off of teaching in the public school, I taught in an outdoor school called Wildwise, and really wonderful school where everything was outside. And we did some bucket drumming outside, and just a really cool thing. I think they're one of the only schools that does LARP, which is live action role play.
Wow.
But they do edu-LARP, so it's like educational live action role play. So they'll like, it's kind of live action Dungeons and Dragons, where you have a quest, but you are learning things like about plants and animals as you go along, or part of your quest is to learn various things, and so that's how you learn. And kids are super motivated. We did a thing where I taught them a song on the recorder, but I had to hide out in the woods and play, and they had to come out and find me, and then I was like this magical character that had to teach them something before they could move on to their next thing. And it was just very cool, really cool, different ways of looking at teaching and learning and education. And I think there's a lot of that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, I went to the website and read about it. Really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Any projects coming up or a website you can share about us? Anything going on for you?
Well, I mean, I'm in the thick of teaching right now, so that's kind of still my main gig. And I'm on Facebook, Michael McCurdy. I don't really have a band page or anything. I have a few different projects that I do around, and I usually advertise what I got going on. Oh, I'm also playing. I didn't mention this other project. There's a band called Winslow Tinkerton out of Seattle. They used to be called the Bullet Brothers, but they are now Winslow Tinkerton. Fantastic bluegrass band.
Ooh, nice.
And I sort of fell into it. They would come over and play at the Downpour, and I would play my cajon, which is a box drum, with them. And they're like, man, we really like you. Come, play these gigs with us. So I just kind of became part of the thing. And gradually I've been adding drums. And the last gig we played in Seattle at the Central Saloon, the guy had a whole full kit, and he's like, oh yeah, you can play my kit if you want. And I played the full kit, and it was like, wow, okay, yay. But it's been an interesting thing, because typically traditional bluegrass stuff doesn't have a lot of drumming in it. So they're doing some neat things with it, and just an amazing musicians. But they're called Winslow Tinkerton, and you can look them up on Facebook. And I think we're going to play at the High Dive in December. And we played at the Nectar Lounge a while back, and it was just a lot of fun with some other bluegrass guys, and just some great players. And they play in various bands in Seattle, so this is just kind of a project of the guitar player singers, whose name is David Sloan, and he kind of keeps us all together and lines up various gigs. And so that's been a fun project I've been a part of. And
can you when's that again at the Downpour?
Every Thursday evening at the Downpour in Kingston, Washington. Yeah, it starts at 6:00 and goes to 9. And man, I would love to see you out there sometime.
Be awesome. Well, Micah, thank you so much for having few minutes out of your busy day, and be part of the Chit Chat, encouraging one other podcast. And I'll end with you a quote by Billy Joel. It says, "I think music in itself is healing. It's explosive expression of humanity. It's something we all are touched by, no matter what culture we're from. Everyone loves music."
There we go. I think the Piano Man got it right.
Thanks so much. God bless, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Jody. Thanks for having me, and it was a nice chat.
Thanks for all you do teaching kids, and just continue encouraging them.
Yeah, peace and love, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. God bless. Take care.
I love talking with people from all walks of life, and I have a musician who I'll be talking with in a couple of weeks, and her name is Elizabeth Mary, and this is one of her songs, Parking Lot Kiss. I'm excited to talk with her and get her story.
Underneath the stars on a cold winter's night, a kiss. Is I pull away with a smile on my face, a star-crossed night, changed my fate. The moment we've been waiting for. One started as a friendship, grew deeper with time. I can't believe you're here, I can't believe you're mine. Knew the moment I kissed your lips, can't forget the feeling I felt that night. Arms all around me, holding me tight. Baby, you've had my heart since I parted my kiss. One started as a friendship, grew deeper with time. I can't believe you're here, I can't believe you're mine. Knew the moment I kissed your lips, can't forget the feeling I felt that night. Arms all around me, holding me tight. Baby, you've had my heart since. Baby, you've had my heart since. Baby, you've had my heart since I parted my kiss. I parted my kiss.
Break for 30 seconds. Are you craving tacos? You know what? It doesn't have to be Tuesday to have tacos. You got tacos any day of the week. At TaquizaTacoShop.com, that's TAQUIZA, tacoshop.com, they have 5 kinds of tacos. Delicious tacos, as well as chimichangas and burritos and grilled jalapenos, my favorite. Their food's fresh, authentic, made daily. They're locally owned and operated here in Silverdale, Washington. They got a food truck and a Facebook page. You can go online and check out their amazing menu. Getting you hungry? You can place an order today at 360-698-4335, or you can stop by and check out their address. Is 10315 Silverdale Way, Silverdale, Washington. As I said, it's authentic, it's fresh, and 5 kinds of tacos. Delicious. That's Taquiza. TaquizaTacoShop.com. Every day is a day for tacos. Are you craving donuts? Not those one bite and done donuts that's been sitting on your local grocery store shelf for who knows how long donuts. No, sir. Lone Star Donuts here in Silverdale, Washington has over 50 flavors of donuts and other pastry items as well. These donuts are huge, fluffy, and delicious. So why not stop by and check out Lone Star Donuts? Or you can call them and place your order at 360-204-5021. Lone Star Donuts, the only kind of donut to have. This is Raymond Hayden and George Varghese, Legion 14. can check out some of Raven's awesome music at ravenhayden.net, and truly a gifted musician, along with there George Varghese as well. This is Chit Chat, the encouraging one other podcast.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
If you've heard that, or said that even, you have served in our armed forces. Veterans Day was November the 11th. And words cannot express enough the thankfulness we have for the many veterans who've gone above and beyond, who have fought for our freedoms. This is a Veterans Day tribute. If someone has done military service, they earn the title veteran and more. They earn our deep respect and admiration. That they are special, no one can ignore. They've sacrificed the comforts we enjoy. The list is long of all the things they gave. Our veterans are extraordinary people. They're loyal, dedicated, true, and brave. When terror and invasion were real threats, they showed us they could handle any storm. We owe our freedoms and our lives to our veterans who served in uniform. Our veterans should be celebrated. They're celebrities. They're exceptional. No other group compares. We're grateful for the many things they've done. They're always in our hearts and our prayers. We owe our veterans support and friendship. Let no one ever question what they're worth. These men and women served us and our country, our veterans, the very best on earth. Thank a veteran. Many of our veterans have probably passed, but there still are many veterans who have served. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, reserves who've been deployed here and overseas, who have been in wars. Thank you to the many veterans out there. And still, one day on my bucket list is to go to the tomb of the unknown soldier and to see. I've seen it on video. I've seen it, on YouTube, but I've never seen it in person. That would be quite the moment for me. I'd love to have my dad with me. He served in the Army. I served in the Navy. Thank you to all our veterans. God bless. And God bless the USA.
Thank you so much for joining the Chit Chat Encouraging One Another podcast today. My guest was Michael McCurdy, who is a music teacher out of Wolfville Elementary School in Kingston, Washington. and a musician who hosts open mic nights, encouraging musicians, and it was really fun talking with him today. I also want to thank Joel Gibson Jr., Elizabeth Mary, and Raymond Hayden and George Varghese, and allowing me to share the music on this podcast. And most of all, my sponsors, Tequila and Lone Star Donuts, both located in Silverdale, Washington. Hope you can swing by and check them out. This is Jody Sheffield, host of the Chit Chat, encouraging one another podcast. Well, it's always about encouraging others.
This is Chit Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. What it's all about, encouraging others.